Hello, my name is Dan Milgate, Superintendent of the Spencerport Central School District. Thank you for taking the time to review our presentation on the 2020-2021 budget presentation. I'm very proud to be the superintendent of our school district and have been fortunate enough to have been a part of this great learning community since 1990. Each year, we typically visit nearly 30 community organizations or schools to provide an overview of our annual budget prior to the actual vote, and we'll use this presentation as our approach this year, given the challenges that we have with the COVID-19 pandemic. So to begin, our hope is to use this presentation to make sure that our community is aware of our goals and has an awareness of the many variables that impact the school district budget. These variables certainly include the school district expenditure plan and enrollment trends, our revenue sources, a determination of a tax levy that is impacted by local estimated assessments, and of course, a final projected tax rate. This year, like others, we will have open seats to fill for our Board of Education position, so we will touch base on that as well, as the changes to the voting process this year have been impacted by COVID-19. Since 2003, our school district has been committed to reach the objectives and vision of our strategic plan using strategies that embrace partnerships and student learning. This year is no different than the past 17 years, and we will continue to guide our work towards inspiring every student to be successful. When we think about our budget goals, the first is to maintain and enhance the excellent programs and opportunities our students have in Spencerport. As an example, our work on our digital conversion efforts instructionally and administratively is critical and has become even more important when we think about some of the challenges we have had these past few months. A continued effort with our literacy and numeracy initiatives and supporting the programs that embrace social and emotional learning and culturally responsive instruction are others. Second, while the resources required for running an organization of this size continue to grow, we must maintain a balance and plan for keeping our tax rate at a reasonable level. And finally, while this upcoming year is forecasted to have some financial challenges with all that we have been facing, we also need to continue to put energy into our long-term financial planning and sustained use of our reserve funds. Our development of the adopted budget that I'm about to share was done with this in mind. Like any year, we are always faced with challenges, just as each of us are in our personal financial plans. I will say up front that this requires us to constantly review funding approaches while being strategic and mindful of the impact that this has on our community. This year, the most impactful factor that we have been managing is obviously the changes in thought processes we have had to encounter since COVID-19 has changed our instructional and organizational efforts. The forecasted changes in state aid alone have made staying the course with our initiatives a daily part of our work and conversations. Another key factor as we work on those long-range financial planning efforts I just mentioned is the ongoing increases that we and all organizations face with the increasing cost of benefits. We continue to adjust to the increased expenses associated with the changes to the minimum wage laws as well that are out of our control. And in addition, Spencerport is one of the only districts that does not have a pre-K program to provide our students with the necessary foundation in literacy and numeracy to help secure the success in education that I spoke of earlier. We are excited to begin that process this year with a pilot program. So even with these factors, since February, we have provided the Board of Education with multiple updates and revisions of our spending plan for the 2020-21 school year and received their approval on our proposed budget at our May 12th Board of Education meeting. The culminating proposed budget this year has resulted in a 2.47% increase in our spending plan of a little over $2 million. Let me provide some details on this proposal. Each year, we are required to provide a three-part breakdown of our budget. As you can see, this graphic breaks down our spending plan into three categories. The largest, which includes any faculty and staff for our instructional program, as well as the resources needed. That's program. That percentage is very typical, as is the 10% that covers the administration portion of our budget. And finally, we need our buildings and buses, the capital portion of our budget, which is 16.4% this year, and again, a very typical portion to previous budgets. While budgets are highly impacted by enrollment, Our enrollment history and cohort projections have our enrollment showing very little changes from year to year. Our current numbers actually represent a change of 3 less students forecasted for next year. Since we staff based on enrollments, this translates into very few changes in staffing needs unless there are specific New York State guidelines or specific student needs that dictate the addition or reduction of staffing needs. An important part of any budget is to know and have a handle on your forecasted revenues. This graphic shows that 90% of our funding, the 2 big green sections, is dependent on New York State aid and what we ask for from our community in the form of a tax levy. This percentage is very typical, as is the federal and local resources. Our challenge this year is the unpredictable situation with the New York State aid right now and local income tax revenue. While we are very comfortable with the proposed budget, we also know that if revenue sources become compromised, we will need to determine what potential cuts are needed to be made in our spending plan to make sure we can still move forward with a successful school year. It's important to look at the state and federal resources we receive and what our current budget proposal includes. Overall, while you see a large increase in the federal aid portion of our funding on this table, it is actually the result of the governor's office and how they allocated aid in our New York State aid package. Ultimately, our increased revenues from the state and federal aid have only increased by 2.1%, or approximately $764,000. So with that understanding that $43.2 million will be provided through aid, and knowing that our proposed spending plan is $84.5 million to embrace our instructional and operational programs, the amount still needed to balance our budget is $41.3 million, seen up here underneath the subtotal. Each year, we typically use some of our reserve accounts that have restricted purposes, and for this year, we are proposing that we allocate a little over $2 million for this upcoming year. The result is that we would need $39,229,379 to balance our budget. When applying all tax cap calculation guidelines, we will be asking for a tax levy that requests just $579 less than the allowable limit. When we determine our tax levy and the resulting tax rate, we know that this is also impacted by those projected assessments I spoke of earlier and that you receive from each of your local townships. This year, like others, we work with the town assessors so we have a sense of the assessment efforts and work towards keeping our tax rates at a reasonable level. This slide provides a history of the tax rate for our school tax levy, and as you can see, our approximate 21-cent increase to 24.26 per 1,000 of assessed value represents an estimated increase of 0.86%. This is actually 7 cents less than what was in 2017-18. As I mentioned in the previous slide, however, we know that this has different impact levels depending upon equalization rates that are being used in each township. And as we have done in previous years, especially in our cornerstone publication on the budget and our public presentations, we like to show an example of what this actually looks like with a star exemption. With a $150,000 assessed value home, the monthly increase after applying the forecasted tax rate per $1,000 and the star exemption would be an annual increase of about $25.20 annually, or $2.10 a month. We also encourage residents to visit the New York State Star website for any further guidance to make sure you're up to date on how the star exemption works for you. We are proud of all that Sped Support offers our youth and need to be sure to acknowledge some of the value in what our district offers as a result of the funding of our programs. Shown here are just a few of the examples. Our extracurricular activities for our students like DECA, the Distributive Education Clubs of America, where students compete on a local and national level and receive so many real-life benefits. This is the same for our nationally recognized music program, the incredible growth and value in our robotics program, our performing arts programs, and various other clubs and opportunities for our students. Not in any of these pictures, but another example is our Scholar Athlete School of Excellence Award, where 75% of a school's varsity team must qualify with a team GPA of 90% or higher. So many of our teams receive this. Additionally, our athletic programs continue to receive recognition for honors of sportsmanship, as well as state and county championships. And the students are guided with excellent mentors and teachers. Just this year alone, our school district was recognized as the best high school in the U.S. News ranking, identified as a top workplace in Rochester, and our middle school was selected again as a National Schools to Watch school. Individual teachers and administrators have received multiple awards for their efforts as well. We are very proud of our students, faculty, and staff, and most of all of our learning community. So, what are you voting on? We thank you for considering our proposed budget that will afford us this opportunity to continue to provide the excellent programs that we have in Spencerport. The vote this year, as you know, is quite different, and hopefully you should have received an absentee ballot in the mail at this point as determined by the governor's executive order. There is only one proposition this year for the spending plan, and that is for 2.47% budget-to-budget increase. Also on your ballot, you will see that we have 3 open seats for the Board of Education positions. There are 9 candidates listed here alphabetically, and each candidate's profile can be found in this year's Budget Cornerstone, our district newsletter, or you can find that information on our website. Additionally, many of the candidates participated in the Meet the Candidate interview, which was recorded this year, that is also located on our website for your viewing. I encourage you to view this information and thank all of our willing candidates for submitting their interest in serving our school district as a Board of Education trustee. And at this point, I'd be remiss if I didn't publicly thank longtime Board of Ed trustee Jody Gillette for her years of service on our board. While she will not be seeking another term, her years of service and impact on our school district has been tremendous. On behalf of the Spencerport community, Jody, I thank you. And finally, while we have had excellent results with our budget votes, we continue to have a decline in the total number of available voters actually casting their votes. Even though this year's process is different with absentee ballot only, we encourage you to participate and please call if you have any questions. Please be very careful to follow the directions on the absentee ballot process when sending those in. As I mentioned earlier, this year is quite different as you can only vote by absentee ballot. And please remember that we must receive all ballots by 5 p.m. on budget vote day, which is now scheduled for Tuesday, June 9th. We will continue to use the same protocols for securing the privacy and integrity of the absentee ballots as we've used every year with the guidance from the Monroe County Board of Elections. Please be sure to contact us should you need any additional ballots or if you have any questions. And again, thank you very much for taking the time to review this information on our proposed budget.